Do we want to keep this country safe? Do we want to keep this country strong? I do too. We have a chance here on Tuesday to turn the page. To turn the page. We have to come together. Long Island, I'm a strong Islander myself. I'm from Brentwood, Long Island. Born and raised. Yes, I am. And we have got to come together. We are all the colors of the rainbow in Long Island. And we love this country. We love who we are. We're here to support this country. We're here to do the right thing. So when we turn that page, we have to come together. And on that page, this is what I hope to find. One heart, one land, one people. Together we can. Out of many, one. Together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. This is now, this is what we look like, this is how change comes, goodwill flows, finds common purpose, this is how a great country grows. One heart, one land, one people, together we can, out of many one, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. Let's get it done. Stay awake, build our future with compassion and grace. Face our past, address our mistakes, fulfill the promise of the United States. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of many one, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. Calling our better angels, our higher selves. We the people, bring no better anywhere else. It's time to rise up, reach out and unite. One land, one heart, under freedom's light. It won't be easy, that's a fact. Bitter words flow to divide and distract, but that's all over. That movie's fading to black. We choose harmony, and we are not going back. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of many one, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of many one, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of many one, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. Vote on Tuesday. John Avlon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Vinny Lou. I'm the business manager of Labor's Local 66 of the mighty Laborers International Union of North America. And on behalf of the Executive Board of Local 66 and our membership, we want to welcome you here today in support of the next Congressman, the representative of CD1, John Avlon. team of New York State elected officials, local, state, and federal, to amplify and reinforce the incredible importance of getting John in on Tuesday. I just spent the last 3 days knocking doors in Philadelphia. And while I was out there, I was thinking about how critically important this race is. If Kamala wins, we need the House to get her stuff done. Right? And if that other guy wins, we're going to need the House to keep him in check. So for so many reasons, it's so important. But personally, I'm so sick of the incivility, the misogyny, the hate speech. Enough is enough. Right? And on Tuesday, we take the garbage out. Enjoy!
Shaping the nation's workforce, fighting for fair wages, safer working conditions, and job security. Laborers, from factory workers to construction crews to essential service providers, are the driving force behind the industries that keep our economy moving. Unions amplify their voices, ensuring that laborers receive respect and fair treatment in workplaces that might otherwise overlook their contributions. So let's hear it for Local 66 and Vinnie Ferrari. Started. Are you excited to elect John Avlon to Congress? Are you excited to work as hard as you can for the next 3 days to change the course of America? Then I need you to join me in lighting up this room with your beautiful, strong energy in advancing hope for this great region. A very significant fire in my community, and it happened late at night, and I saw on social media people posting about this fire, and I realized it was just a few doors down from me. So I walked over and I stayed with the homeowner until about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I watched her house be consumed with fire. I watched the destructive, powerful force of fire, and I thought about how powerful destruction can be. That was a literal fire. But there is another kind of fire consuming our communities today and consuming our nation. It is the destructive power of hate. It spreads fast, it consumes, it alienates, it destabilizes, and it creates irreparable harm. We see this destructive power locally when just 2 weeks ago, a student was found with a loaded gun in a Suffolk County high school, reminding us of the unconscionable fact that gun violence in America today is a leading cause of death of our children. And I want to thank Moms Against Gun Violence for being here today. We see this destructive fiery language as locally we hear folks laughing about the vile jokes that were made at Madison Square Garden this week. We see this destruction when our seniors own homes but are liquidity poor and can't keep the lights on because the state and local tax deduction has been taken away and it's too hard to make ends meet. Or when 65,000 Long Island children go to bed each night not knowing where their next meal is going to come from. We see this fire when our beaches, which are the pride and gem of Long Islanders, are repeatedly closed, while leaders deny climate change and fail to take action. And let me be clear, no response is an affirmative response, and we have far too many leaders who are not responding to the calls of action to save our planet. Woo! At the national level, we see this red fire in the insurrection of January 6th. We see this destructive force in the assault on women's reproductive rights, on our basic human dignity. We see this fire when we know that the child tax credit that cut child poverty in half was then discontinued. We need our leaders in DC to fight this fire. And here's the thing about fire. You extinguish it by depriving it of its oxygen. And so for the next 3 days, we aren't going to talk about all that's wrong with the world or allow ourselves to be consumed by election anxiety. We are going to deprive those energies of their oxygen, and we are going to keep building this coalition that stands for peace and the election of leaders that can deliver our deserved future. Moments about you. So we are here today to energize and get John Avlon elected to Congress. But you, yes, woo, that's important. But you are the vehicles to do that. You need to connect to your personal power to know that in a time when it seems that peace is hard to attain, when something as simple as the peaceful transition of power is up for grabs, you need to hear, know, and feel in your spirit that you can change the course of America and the future of our great region, because you can. Martin Luther King said that those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. So in the last 3 days of this election cycle, my ask of you today is to rise up as that powerful army of ambassadors of the candidacy of John Avlon. Be weaponized not with tools of war, but with tools of inclusion and coalition, and not by empowering people to vote, but connecting them to their God-given power. To remind them that in a time when people feel helpless, they are anything but helpless. To remind them that they are powerful agents of change, that their voices and their votes matter, that is in fact our sacred obligation. Are you part of this army? Yeah. Are you ready to do everything you can to get John Avlon elected? So I coined a term early in John's candidacy. He sometimes thinks it's funny, but I call him the Renaissance candidate. Because we know from history that dark times can be followed by an extraordinary renaissance. And I believe John is the leader and the vehicle to advance that. So what is a political renaissance? It's a revival where fresh ideas, bold vision, and renewed passion are reshaping our future. Just as the Renaissance in Europe was marked by breakthroughs in art and science and thought, our political renaissance can be a time of awakening for democracy, for social justice, and for innovation. We can see a rebirth of civic engagement with people from all walks of life stepping up and imagining and reimagining what government can be, more just, more inclusive, and more responsive to the needs of its people. Leaders today are the architects of a new political and social structure, just as artists and thinkers redefined culture centuries ago. And just as the Renaissance left a legacy of progress, the actions we take now will pave the way for future generations. I believe deep in my gut that joy is your sacred birthright. Long Island was America's first suburb, and it was built as a place for promise, but not for all people. That is our history. But a Renaissance candidate can lead us to the next chapter. We can be the place, we can be a place that leads the nation on what it means to solve complex problems. We can be the vehicles that usher in the future that we dream of for ourselves, for our children, and for our neighbors. I believe we can do that. I know that we can do that, and I believe that due date for that assignment is November 5th.
Yeah.
So you have 3 days to be a part of the powerful army that extinguishes the destructive forces of people who claim to make the greatest nation great again. America was great, America is great, and with leaders like John Avlon at the helm, we can be excited again about our future. Preceded by courage and by those who dare to dream. In the 1960s, J.F. implored Congress to go to the moon. The tools to do so, the technology to do it, had not yet been invented. Can you imagine the audacity, the courage to tell the nation that you're going to do something that you have yet to be able to do, that you can't actually deliver? Well, that's the thing about leaders. They create the ability. They innovate, and America enjoyed a time of space exploration and saw the world from a new vantage point in space. So join me in believing that we can dream again. Join me in believing that a renaissance is coming. Join me in using every second of every minute for the next 3 days to get this outstanding public servant, John Avlon, to Washington, D.C. To introduce to you our New York State Party's chair. Jay Jacobs is a leader that has to contend with the most powerful force, the most powerful GOP force there is in Nassau County. And yet he's made strides to get Democrats elected into positions of power and to elevate our principles and our values. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce a distinguished leader whose dedication to the Democratic Party has been pivotal in advancing our values and goals across New York. Jay Jacobs.
Thank you. Hello, Suffolk County. How are we doing? First things first, thanks to all of you and our hosts, Local 66, the laborers. Thanks for letting us use your hall, but thanks for all the great work you did. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very brief. We've got a lot of speakers and better ones than me. And I want you to know a couple of things, however. Democrats do not win without labor. But when we got labor, we do win. And that's why this is going to be a winning election this year. You guys have been great. I have been going to canvasses up and down, and everywhere I go, every canvas opening, every startup, I see labor. And they're out there, you're working, you're getting the job done. John Avlon's going to be our next congressman from the 1st Congressional because of the work of labor. A bit of housekeeping, because I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. Tomorrow is the last day of early voting. So if you haven't voted early, you got one day to do it tomorrow. Now, any Democrat that you see who has not voted by tomorrow, any Democrat that you see, you make sure they vote on Tuesday. Republicans can wait till Wednesday. But I want you to make sure everybody gets out to vote. You got to drag 10 people with you, and your family's got to do the same. If we do that, we are going to have a great night on Tuesday, and I believe we are. Now, I'm not going to introduce her, but I do have a thing or so to say about our governor, because this is a unique year. I've been county chair in Nassau now going on 24 years soon, and I've been state chair going on about 9 in 2 different iterations of that with several governors. I have never seen an effort like the effort that Governor Kathy Hochul has put into this coordinated campaign. And it's not just the fundraising. And I want to remind everybody, this is different. Governors tend to campaign and tend to put resources in and tend to pay attention when they are on the ballot. Well, Kathy Hochul has demonstrated she's not on the ballot, but she wants everybody that's a Democrat that is on the ballot to win on this Tuesday night. So we've got 43 offices across the state. We've got nearly 100 people full-time working on this. We have 20,000 volunteers in the state of New York, knocking on doors, texting, making phone calls, working with labor to get everybody out and make sure they vote. And our grassroots folks are doing a fantastic job too. So folks, I'm going to leave you with this. It's what I say at this time of year to every group that I talk to. So those who have heard it, I apologize. But I think it's important. And I think you should know it. You're going to be knocking on doors these next few days. And believe it or not, there are voters who don't care as much as we do, don't know as much as we do, haven't thought about it as much as we have. You're going to knock on those doors and you don't have the time, folks, to go through all of the issues. So I'm going to tell you, you can make it very easy for them. And this is what I tell you, and please learn it because it's true. Everything you need to know about politics, you were taught when you first learned how to drive a car. If you want to go forward, you put it into D. You want to go backwards, you put it into R. We're not going backwards, New York. We're not going backwards in this country. We're going to elect Kamala Harris, and we're going to bring it home
me know that I often joke that I'm the female version of Billy Joel. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing to you, I promise. But I love Long Island as much. And there is a song, Down Eastern Alexa, that is about the fisherman crisis that took place on Long Island. And he says, these waters aren't what they used to be. There ain't no island left for islanders like me. That was a challenge facing a different generation of leaders in this great region. Although the safety and well-being of our water continues to be an issue we fight for, and certainly the governor is an extraordinary advocate and leader on. An interesting, but I have to share an interesting fact, for those of us who look at the filings. So I'm looking at the filings the other day as the female version of Billy Joel, and I realized that Billy Joel actually contributed to John Avlon's campaign. Than the piano man who put Long Island on the map globally as being the best place to work, live, and raise a family than Billy Joel. And he's supported John Avlon. But there is one person that I know is in a New York state of mind every single day, going to battle for the bright future that every Long Islander and every New Yorker deserves. Governor Hochul is leading the state's effort to ensure that our next chapter is to build enduring and transformative legacy. A Long Island and a New York State that is a promise, a place of promise for every definition of Long Islanders like me. A state that leads the nation in protecting the bright future that every single New Yorker deserves. Please join me in welcoming our great governor, Kathy Hochul.
Suffolk County, you rock! I looked at my schedule. I started in Albany, I went to Manhattan. I launched buses that were going all over the state of New York. I worked my way up to the Hudson Valley. I found my way back here because I said I was not going to miss this party. I love election time. As someone who's been on the ballot 15 times, anytime I'm not, I'm overjoyed. But it gives me a chance, as someone who is so deeply empathetic to everyone who's run for office, from council as I did, county as I did, Congress as I did, and now statewide as I've done and will continue to do. I will tell you this, I knew that we were missing something, right? Like all those years of running for office, for 30 years, I had little toddlers campaigning with me. You know what it's like to, my little girl had to go to the bathroom like every other house. I mean, it's hard, but you do it because you want your kids to grow up in a better community and you're willing to put your name on the ballot. So when I realized that the power of the New York State Democratic Party was only being turned on, as our great chairman said, every 4 years, I knew that we could do better. We started last year. We said, let's go to those battleground areas that we know we're going to have to defend and fight for in 2024 and start putting down the seeds. Start lining up the volunteers. Start firing up people. And so doing that last year led into this year. And I am so proud to announce for the first time that as a result of our efforts with Kirsten Gillibrand and Hakeem Jeffries and our great chairman, Jake Jacobs, we have hit 5 million voter contacts here. Never before. Never before. Never before. That's today's news. God, I'm so proud of everybody. And I also know who's doing it as well, right? I want to thank Labor. I want to thank you, Vinny, for opening up the House. Labor is in the House. In fact, not only is Labor in the House, we're in Labor's House. Yeah. So thank you to all my friends in Labor. You were there for me in some of my toughest races. And I understand what John is going through. Because I ran in 2011 as in the most Republican district in the state of New York. It wasn't here, believe it or not. It was somewhere else. I think you got it tough. I ran with not the support of the state party, which I was asking for, and the answer was no. I got over the finish line, shocking the nation with that race that I won, with the support of Labor. All those Labor walks, and the canvassing, and volunteers from all over. I have people from New York City calling into my rural district. It was a statewide effort, and now we're seeing that again. Because you're not on your own out here, Suffolk County. I know you've got a great chairman, Richie Schaefer. Let's give a shout out for our chairman, Richie Schaefer. But you're not alone, because those buses from other parts of the state are coming here. There's phone banks all over the state to help John Avlon in District 1. You are getting lifted up by people all across the state who believe that John Avlon will be victorious. He will be our next member of Congress. I know it, I feel it. And just as people said that I couldn't do it, I'm here to say that he will do it. I also want to reference the fact that you are so darn smart. You elect the best. You elect the best here. I want to thank you for sending, for many years, many terms, Steve Bellone to lead your county. Steve, you are missed. You are a good champion. Let's give it up for Steve Bellone. And also not just Suffolk, but a little bit down the road, a place called Nassau. We also have someone that we're fighting to hold his seat and actually run up the score, and that is Tom Suozzi. Someone else that I know is smiling a lot too, because she's not on the ballot either, but she is out there every single day fighting for all of us, and that is our Attorney General Letitia James. Donald Trump's worst nightmare. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I literally got off of MSNBC. You don't realize they had little. I was sitting in your parking lot. It looks like I'm sitting in a big fancy studio in New York City. I was in your parking lot. You gotta love technology. But I was not gonna miss this, I told you. I was not gonna miss this. But what I talked about with Reverend Al, he said, do you think we can do this? Do you think we have a chance? And I said, yes, we can. 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 Because we have the power of all of you, the volunteers. I know you're tired, you're exhausted, you just want this to be over. You know, my advice to you is get a chocolate chip cookie. A little glass of milk is kind of comforting, those of you who are kind of nervous. And get the hell back out there. Yeah. This is how we win. We don't stop, we're unrelenting. We power through the next 3 days, and on Wednesday we're going to wake up and say, yes, we did it. And we elected someone who has done an extraordinary job. I've never seen anybody campaign like John Avlon in life. He is tireless. And he's dragging his kids all over the place too. Your family has been through a lot. I will tell you, same way, my kids were young as well when I did this. And believe it or not, 30 years later, they're still talking to me. So we're gonna be okay, okay? Sorry boys, you'll get your dad back. We need him because he understands what Long Island is all about. He understands what it's like to try and raise a family in a place where the taxes seem to be going up and up and up and you don't know what to do about it. He's living in a place that you're always feeling so vulnerable because hurricanes are getting worse and climate change is having its ill effects. We just had a 1,000-year flood here on Long Island. A 1,000-year flood. I was here, I saw the devastation. He understands about water quality and sewers and all those challenges. So he understands you, but he also understands. He also understands more than those local issues that he'll deliver for you. He understands with his victory on Tuesday. That means that Hakeem Jeffries will have enough votes when we have this. John Avlon will be the one who leads the way. Let's give it up for John Avlon. Make it happen, everybody. Thank you.
John Avlon! district. And okay, forget John. Let's give it up for his lovely bride. Yeah. And for the 2 boys. My friends, this election has really nothing to do about party politics. It's larger than that. It's about patriotism. It's about democracy. It's about freedom. And it's about rights. And so that is why this entire district, whether or not you're a Democrat or Republican or independent, I really don't care. It's about decency, and it's about restoring order as opposed to dysfunction and disorder in Congress. It's about getting things done. It's about addressing the needs of Americans. And here we are in the house that labor built. And I want all of you to know that labor is responsible for minimum wage. Labor is responsible for workplace conditions and safety. Labor is responsible for child health laws, safety laws. Labor is responsible for sick leave. Labor is responsible for the pension and Social Security. And yes, labor is responsible for the weekend off. So you gotta give it up for labor. Oh, you can do better than that. Come on, Suffolk County. Make some noise for labor. I used to teach kids in IBEW. I taught these kids for 4 years when I was public advocate. They would come to my class. They used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then they would come to my class at 6. I taught them a little bit about the Constitution. And they would come in tired, John, and they would say, "Oh, Tish, I didn't do the assignment. I was tired." And I said, "That's okay, that's okay, that's okay." They said, "Tish, I want to join the union. I want to join the union because I want to be a part of the middle class." They said, "Tish, I want to be a part of the middle class, and I want to improve the conditions for my family. I want to buy a house. I want to further my education. I want to be a part of the middle class, and the only way that we can do it is through the labor movement." And so I want all of you to know that there's a certain individual who is running for president wants to do away with all of the protections for union. The right to organize. And the courts will deal with that. The right to organize. And John supports the PRO Act bill, which will protect the right to organize for labor unions. He understands that we need to build the middle class and we need to build it out. He wants to create dreams not only for his children but for all of you. He recognizes what is at stake right now. He understands that what is happening in Texas and Georgia, 2 women who died, 3 women who died in Texas, and so many women that I met in Georgia who are bleeding out in bathrooms because they can't get reproductive care. It shouldn't happen in Texas, it shouldn't happen in Georgia, it shouldn't happen in Pennsylvania, and it certainly is not going to happen in New York under his leadership. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. And to all of the men who support us, let's give them a round of applause, ladies. These are families in Texas and Georgia who wanted those children. They wanted those babies. And when they went into emergency rooms and they went into hospitals, doctors refused to provide them with reproductive care because they were afraid of being locked up and criminalized. There is something wrong with that, fundamentally wrong with that. And so we should not take away the rights of women. We should not take away the rights of anyone. What we need to do is stand together and stand up against hate, because John teaches his children that we are all part of one human family, that we're all God's children. And that this, my friends, is what democracy looks like. So we've got to stand together, stand united as one, stand united as one family. Listen, I'll use the law both as a sword and as a shield to cover you, but So John will walk into the Congress and he will make sure that your needs, your felt needs are being addressed. And that's why we need him in Congress. No more disorder, no more dysfunction. Let's respond to the needs of New Yorkers. Let's not be served and let's serve the people. That's what John believes in. So if you believe in him, if you recognize what is at stake, then Suffolk County, the power is in your hand. Unleash that power. Vote, 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 vote. Because when we vote, when we vote, let's go Suffolk County.
Are you on fire? Are you on fire? Amazing. So our incredible Attorney General just talked about a lot of crises, right? Narcissism turned policy, egomaniacal leadership, women's health care being at stake, environmental exploitation. The next person I'm going to introduce is someone who is a crisis manager, who led Suffolk County through the first Superstorm Sandy, through COVID-19, through the cyber emergency, County Executive Steve Bellone.
Thank you. How we doing, Suffolk County? Let's hear it for Rebecca Sanin. I want to tell you, who made up the speaking order and put me behind Tish James? This is what happens when you're a retired elected official. Proud to represent. I am so happy to be here with all of you tonight, standing up and fighting for our country, for our community, and fighting to elect a man of character and integrity and intelligence who's going to help take back our country, John Avlon. And it is such an honor to be here with Vinnie Allu and the laborers and all the men and women of labor. Thank you. And you've heard this before, but at every moment of crisis in our country, whenever we've seen difficulties and challenges, labor has been there to help move us forward. And I am telling you, I am certain that in this election, labor will make the difference once again. Thank you, Vinnie. Thank you, laborers. Thank you, everyone in the labor movement. And you know this race is important. You know this race is important when just a couple of days before the election, on the same stage, you have the great Governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, our amazing Attorney General, Letitia James, and the next Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries. And we know, as you heard, the first thing we know John is going to do an amazing job for us, and he's going to make us proud in Congress. And the first thing he's going to do when he gets down there is join Tom Suozzi and help elect and make sure that Leader Jeffries becomes Speaker Jeffries in the next Congress. We know also that John is going to do amazing things around policy and for families. I'll let him talk about that. All I'll say, you know, every day he will be fighting for working class and middle class families down in Washington for us. I think more important, last thing I'll just say here, I think maybe the most important thing John's going to do, and I know he's going to do this because this is who he is, he's going to go down to Washington and he is going to stand up for American values. You know, I've been knocking on doors, I was just knocking on doors, and there's been a great reaction. As you know, you've heard it out there. There's been a great reaction to John because of who he is. But I also heard some disturbing things. I was out there at one house that had a Harris Walls sign on their lawn. And this couple told me that their neighbor came over to them and said, "Thank you for putting the lawn sign out. Thank you for your bravery. I can't do it." When in our country did putting up a political sign on your lawn become an act of bravery? This is not our country. This is not who we are. A couple days ago on Halloween, I was there with my daughters. They're 16 and 15. We were handing out candy. And my daughter Molly said, Dad, we got to be at the Cool House. So we got full-size candy bars. And we were in that house. But she kept noting there were a few groups passing our house. And then when one more group passed, she said, Dad, do you think it's because we have a Harris Wall sign on our lawn? And that hurt me to hear her think that that is it. But it hurt me even more to think that she may be right. That may be exactly right. That is not our country. That is not the America I grew up in or you grew up in. And we have to fix this. And the only way that you fix it is by electing people of good faith who are going to go down and work together to solve problems and rise up to challenges. And that is what John Avlon has always been. That is the kind of leader he will be. And when we elect him, he is going to help get America back on track. And that's why we have to fight in the next few days to do everything we can to make sure John Avlon is our next congressman. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Let's hear it for John Avlon. I want to welcome the president of Republicans for Avlon, Margaret Hoover Avlon. I want to welcome the president of 11 years old for Avlon, Jack Avlon. And the president of 8-year-olds for Avlon, of 9 years old, his daughter Paula. Everybody has talked about labor, okay? Local 3, yes, I love Local 3. Now I'm taking it down now. Why is it that labor is so into politics? That they pay so much, I mean, I've always been pro-labor. We're all pro-labor, these elected officials are here. When I went to Congress, I got crazy pro-labor. Why? Because in Washington, D.C., there are people that hate unions. The minimum wage in 22 states in the United States of America is $7.25 an hour. How is that possible? If you make $10 an hour and you work 40 hours a week and you work 50 weeks a year, you make $20,000 a year. If you make $15 an hour, you work 40 hours a week, you work 50 weeks a year, you get 2 weeks vacation, you make $30,000 a year. You mean to tell me you're going to buy a house? You're going to have health insurance? You're going to educate your kids? You're going to retire one day without being scared? That's why the labor movement is so interested in politics, because it affects the real wages and benefits and real life of real people. Let's give it up for labor and thank them for all that they do. Every problem we face in America is complicated. Nothing is simple. Anybody who says to you, why don't you just, doesn't know what they're talking about. Everything's complicated. That's why we have a candidate who's right out of central casting in John Avlon. This guy, could you ask for anybody smarter or more passionate or more detailed policy positions, or someone who genuinely can? The guy can do anything he wants. He had a fantastic career. He's a successful guy. He decided, oh no, I want to try and help people by solving problems to make the world a better place to live in. Thank you, John Avlon. And he's a great candidate. He's a fantastic candidate. He knows how to appeal to people. He knows how to talk to people. So politics sometimes is not that great. Now, I asked somebody once, I said, what is that root of the word politics? Poly is a Greek word which means of the many. Ticks are blood-sucking insects. But politics, I'm so happy that I've been in politics as long as I love it. I love America. I love this country. I love what it's done for my family. I believe in this country. And I'm so happy that I've had the opportunity to try to work with the people, to try to find solutions to make people's lives better. That's what John Avlon is all about. This guy wants to make the world a better place to live in. And he's willing to subject himself to the rigors of this campaign to do it. Now, we need you more than ever. Okay? We need you like never before. Sometimes you watch the TV commercials and you say, oh, what can I do? I'm just one person, all the money, all the literature, all the politicians. You've got to do this. It's up to you. When you built this labor hall, it was built brick by brick by brick by brick. To build something big and to build something beautiful like the United States of America, you've got to do it brick by brick by brick. You've got to do it phone call by phone call by phone call. Door knock by door knock by door knock. Conversation by conversation by conversation. We, the people, in order to make a more perfect union, have to do the work. The founders were always concerned that democracy wouldn't work. Because if the people aren't involved, and the people don't get educated about the issues, it'll be just left up to the parties. Now, I love the party. I'm a proud Democrat. I love our chairman, Jay Jacobs, and our chairman from Suffolk, Richie Schaefer. I'm a proud Democrat, always be a proud Democrat. I'll never sacrifice my values. But we can't leave it up to the parties. We need the people. And you are the people. So tonight is all about you helping John Avlon to become the next congressman from the 1st Congressional District so we can get the majority in Congress and to make Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and it's all up to you. Go get him!
So blown away and grateful to see all of you here. All of you who I've been at labor launches with and knocking on doors with and meeting with for months and months with the eyes on this prize, just 3 days away. Right? What have I said at the beginning? We've got to be happy warriors, fighting the good fight. And you know what the good fight is, right? A good fight is for something bigger than ourselves. We got 3 days together to save American democracy. We got 3 days to flip this seat. We got 3 days to make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker of the House. And that's what we have the power here to do together. This is people power. I mean, the governor could have been anywhere in New York State tonight. Tom Suozzi, not in Nassau tonight. Hakeem Jeffries could have been any place in the country tonight. You know why they're here in New York 1? Because they know, not me, they know that we are going to take this seat back by winning it. That's what it is. And man, that's the opportunity we have. Because we are blessed to live in a swing district. When we flex our muscles, when we work together, we win. You know what? America works best when we work together, doesn't it? That's what these labor unions teach us. America works best when we work together, and that's what we got to restore. We got to break this fever that's tearing our country apart. You know, Ryan mentioned it a couple decades ago, well, just over 2. I was there when the towers fell. It was my job with my team to write the eulogies for 343 firefighters and 37 Port Authority police officers, 23 members of the NYPD. The thing I keep thinking about, because that's a formative moment in all our lives, is that those heroes who ran into the fire to save their fellow citizens, those heroes didn't die to see our nation tear itself apart 2 decades later. No way. No work we do here matters. In this swing district, the work we do here matters. And that's an amazing opportunity, but it's also an obligation, right? Because we got to work our hearts out. Because we know there's no do-overs after this. We know that winning here in any swing district requires the politics of addition, not division. But it also requires that kind of governing on the other side, where we got to focus on what unites us, not what divides us. We got to work together to solve our common problems with common decency and common sense to pursue the common good. That's what we got to get back to, and that's what we will get back to. And look, the fact is we've got some stark choices here. That kind of politics requires, summed up in that slogan I've been saying all throughout this campaign, we got to rebuild the middle. We got to rebuild the middle of our politics and rebuild the middle of our economy, and those two things are connected. Because it's not an accident we hollowed out the middle of our politics at the same time we hollowed out the middle of our economy. We got to throw everything at rebuilding the middle class in America, and labor unions built the middle class along with the GI Bill and community colleges. That's what built the middle class. The middle class is our own extremes to come back together to the middle. Because we got to keep an eye on country over party. We got to think country over party. That's key to how we heal our divisions. And the problem in the debate we're having right now is that our friends on the other side, and I'm incredibly proud to have Republicans for Avlon. Don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Republicans, I'm married to a Republican. But what's happening right now is something a little bit dangerous. It's about empowering extremism and not having the spine and the stone to stand up to their party's own extremes. Right? I mean, the other night, when I was debating your current one-term failed far-right Congressman Nick Laloda on News 12, and he couldn't bring himself to criticize Donald Trump for praising Adolf Hitler. I'm sorry, we're through the looking glass, people. That should be the lowest bar. But it's part of the problem in that party right now, that no one's standing up and speaking common sense. They've lost country over party. They've lost principles over party. They've flipped that around. And so they do things that don't reflect common sense. They're not, actually, they're all about empowering the extremes when we know we need to stand up to the extremes to succeed as a country and a community, right? I just want to remind you, you know the stakes of the election for our democracy, but for our economy, that's the state and local tax deduction we're going to bring back the Trump and Republicans took away. That's $10,000 back in your pocket. They can talk about that. They're already telling you that if they're elected, it's gone for good. Democrats are elected, we're bringing that back. That's the way to address the affordability crisis here on Long Island. Rebuild the middle class. Then we're going to pass the child tax credit, expand the child tax credit. We cut child poverty in half 1 year. We're going to bring that back. Why? It's a down payment to make sure America is working for working people again. That's what we got to do. But, you know, my opponent will talk about it, but he can't get it done. Right? My opponent talks about migrants all the time. But then when we had a bipartisan border security bill that the Wall Street Journal said was the toughest border security bill anyone would ever get, Trump pulled the plug, Nick Laloda took the knee. And I'm telling you, I vote for that bill on day one as a down payment to get the comprehensive immigration reform we need. Tom Suozzi's been a leader on that. Because to me, if you're willing to fearmonger off migrants, and then fundraise off those fears to profit politically, and then refuse to fix it, that's a firing offense, people. That's a firing offense. Finally, we got to talk about reproductive freedom. Because it's under assault, and everyone knows that women are dying. We're talking about IVF. We're talking about contraception. They're talking about tracking women. That's not common sense. And now they're trying to do that dance they've sometimes played, right? Where they pretend they're moderate right before an election and then go vote MAGA in Washington. So my opponent is on record cheering the overturning of Roe v. Wade, calling it, quote, step in the right direction. Is on record saying he would vote to ban second trimester abortions. That's a 12-week abortion ban. That's out of step. That's out of touch. In a district that's more than 75% pro-choice, including a majority of Republicans. So we're not going to let them lie about that because the stakes are too high. Those are just some of the things we can get done. We've got to make sure we're delivering, protecting Social Security and Medicare, protecting prescription drugs for seniors that my opponent wants to repeal that bill. That we're depolarizing on all these issues that are urgent, like combating climate change, that should affect all of us. But, you know, at the beating heart of it all is this idea of the good America. It's this idea that there's more than unites us that divides us, that we've always been imperfect people trying to form a more perfect union, that we live in a great country. I am proud to be an American. We got to reclaim the American flag, by the way, because it belongs to all of us. I do that with all my heart. But these next 3 days are a test, a character test for our country, and you can't overstate the stakes. We will be judged by history. This is happening on our watch. The good news is the work we do here can and will make a difference. What we're faced with is the power of love versus the love of power. Right? It's working together because we know that's how America works best versus an attitude that says my way or the highway, an apocalyptic vision of politics that seeks to divide rather than unite. That's got to motivate us. So we earn this victory. We earn this victory together. The work we do together. And look, it couldn't be more energizing, right? I get energy when we're up against a deadline like this. You know, I write history books on the side, and I'll tell you, our generation has been called on to defend American democracy. And they don't write books about people who get overwhelmed by the stakes. They write books about folks who straighten their civic backbones, lock arms, work together, rise up with a defiant sense of optimism. But that's what it takes. That's what it takes to win. And so when you go out, you tell your friends, you tell your neighbors, you tell the ones who may be kind of on the fence that no, the choice in this election is common ground over chaos. Yeah. Common ground over chaos. You tell them that in this election, the opportunity is to make sure we're going to vote like freedom depends on it. Because it does. This election, you tell them we're going to vote like equality depends on it. Because it does. This election, you tell them to go vote like the future depends on it, because it does. And you tell them to vote like democracy depends on it, because it does. And we've got in the hall the man who could have been anywhere in the United States, and he chose to come right here to the 1st District of New York and Suffolk County. The man our work will make the next Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries of New York.
Good evening, Suffolk County. Good evening, New York 1. What an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you standing in support of John Avlon. Are you ready to send John Avlon to Washington, D.C.? Are you ready to help us take back control of the United States House of Representatives? And are you ready to make sure that Kamala Harris is the 47th President of the United States of America? Great to be with all of you in support of this extraordinary candidate. Certainly to be here with the Governor of the great state of New York, Kathy Hochul. Thank you for all that you are doing to help us take back control of the House of Representatives. She's been a phenomenal leader in that regard. Of course, to my good friend Tish James, the Attorney General. You know, when I'm down in Washington, and folks know that Tish and I basically are from the same neighborhood, they'll often say to me, you know, Brooklyn is part of that same island to get us here to Suffolk County, but people will say, tell me about your Attorney General. I say, well, it's pretty simple. She's Brooklyn's dream and Donald Trump's worst nightmare. for her and of course to be here with my good friend Tom Suozzi, a great member of Congress. You know, Tom said that John, and I agree with him, is a candidate out of Central Casting. Tom Suozzi is a congressman out of Central Casting. And so we're thankful for Tom and all that he represents, one of my good friends in the Congress, of course, to Jay and Richie and all of the dignitaries, all of the brothers and sisters of organized labor who are here with us. We're so thankful for you. Now, we're just 4 seats short of taking back control of the United States House of Representatives. And we can make the majority happen right here in New York 1. So, I've been all over. Thank you. It's good to be in Strong Island right now. But you know, I've been all over the country last couple of weeks. I think maybe about 10 or so days ago, I started out in Illinois. I went from Illinois to Wisconsin, Wisconsin to Minnesota, Minnesota to Nebraska, Nebraska to Iowa, came back home for a day, then went from New York to Massachusetts, Massachusetts to New Hampshire, came home for a day, and then I went to Flint, Michigan. I went to Saginaw, Michigan, went to Lansing, Michigan. I was in Virginia Beach, Virginia, went from Virginia Beach, Virginia to Northern Virginia, Northern Virginia to Frederick, Maryland. I was in Montgomery, Alabama 2 days ago. Yesterday I was in Ithaca and Binghamton. Earlier today I was in Syracuse. Tomorrow I'll be in Nassau County, but it's good to be in New York 1 right now. With John Avlon, a majority maker. Amazing to be in New York 1 with all of you right now. Because John Avlon is a common sense leader. He's a compassionate leader. He's a courageous leader. He's a caring leader. He's a common ground seeking leader. And with your support, the next member of Congress from New York's 1st Congressional District, we need him. John Avlon will work with us. As Tom Suozzi and members of the House Democratic Caucus have made clear throughout this entire Congress, this is the type of leader that John Avlon will be. We've said we'll find bipartisan common ground with our Republican colleagues on any issue, whenever and wherever possible, in order to make life better for the American people. We were sent to Washington to do that, to get things done. John Avlon will work to get things done, to solve problems, to deliver real results, and make life better for the people here in Suffolk County. But at the same period of time, as John just made clear, it's also our job to push back against Republican extremism, MAGA extremism, whenever necessary. And we've been called upon to do it a lot. But this current group of people, they are totally out of control, including the candidate that John is running against, tries to masquerade as something other than he is. That's what we're seeing with all of the New York Republicans. But they've created no space between them and the former president, and the extremism that continues to come from the far right on that side of the aisle. And what's been interesting about this last week, and perhaps they can't help themselves, they've been very clear about what their intentions are in the House of Representatives if they hold the majority. They've been very clear about what they want to do with former President Donald Trump. Extreme MAGA Republicans want to take a blowtorch to Social Security. Extreme MAGA Republicans want to take a blowtorch to Medicare. Extreme MAGA Republicans want to take a blowtorch to the Affordable Care Act. But when we elect John Avlon, House Democrats will take a blowtorch to Project 2025. That's what John Avlon will do. That's what we will do. Stand up for what is right. Find common ground whenever necessary. Push back against their extremism. As often as we have to do it. John Avlon is the type of leader, he will always put people over politics. John Avlon is the type of leader who's going to fight hard with us to lower costs and to grow the middle class. With John Avlon's leadership, we're going to make sure that we fully restore your state and local tax deduction and put your money back in your pocket. Put your money back in your pocket. John Avlon, of course, will work with us and help lead the effort to fix our broken immigration system and begin by securing the border. John Avlon will make sure that we are strengthening the relationship, the partnership between the police and the community to keep everybody safe. John Avlon, of course, will always work hard with House Democrats to combat the climate crisis with the fierce urgency of now. Very important, I know, to this district, surrounded on three sides here in Suffolk County by water. John Avlon understands that the other side, the far right, has adopted voter suppression as an electoral strategy. And so, one of the first things that we'll be able to do with John in the Congress, with Democrats in the majority, is to pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act so we can end the era of voter suppression in the United States of America once and for all. Once and for all. And with John Avlon in the Congress and a Democratic majority, we will always protect Social Security, protect Medicare, protect Medicaid, protect the Affordable Care Act, protect small businesses, protect working families, protect the middle class, protect our children, protect our seniors, protect our veterans, protect our unions, protect our democracy. And with John Avlon in the Congress, we will always protect a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions. That's what you get. That's what you get when you get John Avlon in the United States Congress. That's what you get. And lastly, of course, we've got to protect and defend our democracy. Democracy is not just some esoteric concept. Democracy is about your ability to make sure that we can control our destinies, that you can present people, elect people, send people to office who share your values, that you are the ones who can determine the future of your family and your children, your grandchildren, your community. That's what democracy, at the end of the day, is all about. Self-government, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, the framers understood that this democracy thing was fragile. Story is often told of that time in 1787. Framers completed their work in that convention hall in Philadelphia. And Ben Franklin emerges from that convention hall and he's approached by a woman named Elizabeth Powell. Mrs. Powell was the first lady of the city of Philadelphia, close friends with George and Martha Washington's, a prominent philanthropist. He approaches Ben Franklin and says, Dr. Franklin, what have you gentlemen just done? Have you created a monarchy or a republic? And Dr. Franklin pauses as the story is told and says, Mrs. Powell, we've created a republic, if you can keep it. I thought about that a lot over the last few days, last few weeks. last few years, why would Dr. Franklin, at this triumphant moment, America having just defeated the British Empire, the world's strongest superpower at the time, why would Dr. Franklin express some skepticism about your ability, our ability, to keep this democracy thing going? I think it was because everything that was done in that convention hall, checks and balances, separate and co-equal branches of government, the independent judiciary, the foundations for the free and fair press, the preeminence of the rule of law, and the principle that in America no one would be above the law, the concept of the peaceful transfer of power, all of those values, all of those ideas, all of those institutions had never before been put together in one form of government in the history of the world. And so perhaps Dr. Franklin was skeptical about our collective ability to keep it going. But the majesty of American democracy, the exceptionalism that America represents, the resilience that patriots have continued to show, is that year after year, decade after decade, century after century, we've kept this democracy thing going. But now, perhaps for the first and only time since the Civil War, all of those values, all of those ideas, all of those institutions are under assault. Not from without, but from within. Mrs. Powell, we've created a republic if you can keep it. And so over these next few days, that's the question that once again, all of us are called upon to answer. Once again, the American people have been called upon to rise to the occasion. But here's what gives John optimism, Tom optimism, Governor Hochul optimism, Tish James optimism, all of us optimism, even in the midst of this tough fight, is that as far as I can tell, every single time the American... Every single time the American people have found themselves in a tough spot, whether that was in the 1860s, country literally tearing itself apart in the midst of the Civil War, or in October of 1929, when the stock market unexpectedly collapsed, plunged us into a Great Depression, or on December 7th, 1941, when a foreign power unexpectedly struck, and all of a sudden we found ourselves immersed in a world war against the evil empire of Nazi Germany, or in the Deep South in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, when the country was trying to reconcile the inherent contradictions between Jim Crow segregation and the glorious promises of the Constitution. Or certainly on that fateful day of 9/11, when the towers were unexpectedly struck, and heroes died racing toward the danger and plunged us into an unexpected global war against terror. Or even on January 6th, Congress was unexpectedly overrun by a mob of violent insurrectionists determined to halt the peaceful transfer of power. Every single time, America has found itself in a tough spot. Every single time. Because of patriots like you, stepping up in a moment of great peril, we've always found the heart, the soul, the ability, the resilience, the commitment to make it to the other side. And so as long as during this moment, in these closing days, on behalf of John Avlon, this extraordinary candidate, and this effort that we're undertaking all across the country, as long as we do what John Lewis would often say to us to do, show up and stand up and speak up, to make America the best version of herself, then I'm confident that together we're going to win the day, and win the week, and win the month, and win the year, win the hearts and minds of the American people. Win the election. Elect John Avlon to the United States Congress. Take back control of the House of Representatives. Hold the Senate. Send Kamala Harris to the White House. And continue America's march toward a more perfect union. God bless you. God bless Suffolk County. God bless the United States of America. Let's go win.
One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of anyone, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. This is us, this is now, this is what we look like. This is how change comes, goodwill flows, finds common purpose. This is how a great country grows. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of many one, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. Let's get it done, stay awake, build a future with compassion and grace. Face our past, address our mistakes, fulfill the promise of this United States. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of anyone, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. On our better angels, our higher selves, we the people, free no better anywhere else. It's time to rise up, reach out and unite. One heart, one land, under freedom's light. It won't be easy, that's a fact. Bitter words flow, just run and distract. But that's all over, that mood is fading to black. We choose harmony, and we are not going back. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of anyone, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land. Community, unity, prosperity, mobility, equality, diversity, liberty and justice for all begins with you and me. One heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of anyone, together we stand. One heart, one people, one land, one heart, one land, one people, together we can. Out of anyone, together we stand. One heart, one people, one